All right, folks, you are watching NFL Daily here live with the latest NFL free agency news and rumors. That's Mitchell Renz. I'm Tom Downey. Let's talk trade, though, for a second, because it won't go away, Mitch. It will not go away. The Athletic's Patriots reporter says that the Giants are involved in trade talks. Another report from Bleacher Report said the Niners had a call about it. And we know the Patriots have long had interest in Odell Beckham. Here's what I think is going on. I think it's still the case here. The Giants are listening, as they should, but they aren't actually shopping Odell Beckham, which I think is the likely outcome here. If they don't trade him.
This just drives me insane. I mean, the Giants aren't going to trade Odell Beckham. I think he's not going anywhere.
I mean, they will not trade him unless they get blown away by an offer. This is not an Antonio Brown situation. This is you know what? If you throw us a bunch of first-round picks,
I think people now are going to look at the Antonio Brown trade and be like, oh, if you can get Antonio Brown for a third and the fifth, why not trade it for OBJ? Like, that's not how it works. It's not how it's going to work. Like, I don't see Odell Beckham leaving the Giants, and I'm kind of fed up with the rumors around it because they've said multiple times he's not going anywhere. But sure, in terms of production, though, 2016, 2015, great. But injuries have really started to rack up in Odell's young career. So if I'm an NFL team, I'd be a little bit worried about Odell, to be honest with you.
I wouldn't be concerned at all. I think he's an immensely talented player, and it's not like he's complaining right now. He's not.
He's not.
He's being normal about the whole thing.
But again, when I look at injuries, when I look at some of the other off-the-field antics that he brings, are you willing to pay a wide receiver, let's say $19 million, because he's making about $18 now? Are you willing to pay him all that money when he really hasn't been able to play a full 16-game season ever?
I'm not all that concerned about him. He'll be fine.
All right, we'll see.
Under
12 games for OBJ next year.
Over.
Okay, I'll take the under.
All right, fair bet there. All right, let's talk about some more receivers here and all the buzz that's going on around with that. How about DeSean Jackson? And this one's pretty funny for us because he said goodbye on Instagram, said he's out. But here's the thing. The Bucs haven't actually cut him yet. So he's trying to pull his own Mr. Big Chest, just say, I'm out. I'm available.
Mic drop.
Exactly. Now, there has been plenty of buzz around DeSean Jackson and the Eagles. A report from both NFL.com and ESPN said Philadelphia is the front runner there. I think that certainly makes some sense for the Eagles.
This is like telling your girlfriend you're breaking up but haven't updated that on your Facebook yet. It's basically the way that I'm looking at this one. And I'm not really ultimately surprised that DeSean Jackson is going to be cut or traded because, again, it saves $10 million in cap space.
It's a lot of money.
Now, I will say, I like the idea of DeSean Jackson, Jameis Winston, Bruce Arians in that offense because they're definitely going to air it out. But again, if you want a deep threat wide receiver, you're going to ultimately go out and get somebody like a DeSean Jackson. I think it makes sense. But where's he going to play in 2019, Tom? Type E for Eagles or O for some other team? I would love to see him back in gangrene.
I think the Eagles are the likely outcome here.
Okay.
Now, we'll see if it's a cut or if it's a trade. But with $10 million to be saved for Tampa, I think in the end, they just decide to part ways there. I think it makes a lot more sense.
We should part ways.
No, we should not. All right, next up here, let's talk about some more free agency stuff here. Teddy Bridgewater with the Saints. Adam Schefter reports he is expected to return to New Orleans. Of course, there were ties to the Dolphins and the Jags in rumors, various stuff there. And the Saints gave up a third-round pick for Teddy, so we know that they want him back to continue to groom behind Drew Brees as a possible fill-in once Drew Brees finally calls it a career.
Here's the thing with Teddy. I know you have a weird obsession with Teddy Bridgewater.
Fantastic player.
Fantastic player. Do those numbers look like a fantastic player to you? No. 28 touchdowns, 22 interceptions. That's a worse touchdown to interception ratio than Blake Bortles.
It's a bit unfair when you include it. His first year, which was not that great for Minnesota.
Okay.
Had he been playing this entire year, he's better than Blake Bortles.
Had Trent Richardson not be terrible, he'd be a lot better.
You're putting words in my mouth now.
No, you're lucky I don't put something else in your mouth.
That's
2014, first-round pick, Teddy Bridgewater. Tom loves him. I'm not necessarily sold on him, but I get that he has ties to other teams. If I'm an NFL team, if I'm the Dolphins, I would pursue Teddy Bridgewater to tank for this year and then go get
At minimum, he's a good stopgap starter.
He
and
is.
It's not like if the Dolphins were to bring in Teddy, they might not have a full team around him.
Well, see, I like Teddy Bridgewater, but you got to stop looking at Teddy Bridgewater as the quarterback that came out in 2014 out of Louisville, who I think was a good quarterback. The dude's leg, Tom, literally turned into a slinky, and it just, there's nothing there now.
We'll get to Nick Foles later. How about $21 million for Foles or like 15 for Teddy Bridgewater or 14 for Teddy?
Foles.
Nah, give me Teddy.
Why?
Because I believe in Teddy
Foles is a Super Bowl MVP.
Okay, so Trent Dilfer then.
That's not what I'm going with. I'm going Nick Foles is a much more talented quarterback, And you're going to pay, what, $14 million to Teddy Bridgewater? No. Give me Nick Foles.
That's what I would do.
What do you guys think?
All right, let's
Foles
talk
or Bridgewater.
All right, let's talk about this next one here, and this one's really interesting to me, and I'm very curious here. Adrian Peterson in Chicago. This was the report out of ESPN that the Bears have interest, which is weird to me because the Bears reportedly are open to moving Jordan Howard out because he doesn't fit the system. Does Peterson fit the system better than Howard does? I'm confused by this one.
This makes absolutely no sense. If that's what they're going to do, I mean, Jordan Howard is a strong between the runners between the tackles runner.
There
wow,
you go.
Words tough. That's why I don't play Words with Friends. Maybe because I don't have any friends. However, I think Tariq Cohen is a really solid running back in that system, and I think Jordan Howard. I mean, he was a 1,000-yard rusher his rookie and sophomore season. Just wasn't a good fit. So you're telling me you want to add a running back who's 34 years old, who's really not that good of a pass catcher, who's basically like Jordan Howard in 10 years?
Yeah, that's why it doesn't make any sense to me.
Makes absolutely no sense. And I love Peterson, and I'll be the first to say, Tom, that I think Adrian Peterson had a great year last year and proved me wrong. I mean, he rushed for over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns, and I even said that I would rather have Trent Richardson than Adrian Peterson and Adrian. I'm sorry. I was really wrong. Really, really wrong. But again, Adrian Peterson to the Chicago Bears makes about this much sense.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't understand it.
It makes no sense.
And it's said by ESPN and by a guy on NFL.com, and I'm like, now wait a minute. I just don't understand the fit there. It's not a knock on Peterson's talent right now.
It's just the fit. Like, you want to get rid of Jordan Howard to get Adrian Peterson? Yeah. No. We're done. Yeah. No. Where's Adrian Peterson going to play in 2019? I want you to comment below if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or some other places. Twitter. Where's Adrian Peterson going to play in 2019? If you want to know where Tom and I think, hit us up at Mitchell Renz 365 at What Going Downey.
All right, folks, if you missed it earlier, we do have some breaking NFL free agency news for you guys. Landon Collins is heading to the Washington Redskins on a massive 6-year, $84 million deal with $45 million of that guaranteed. Now, remember, these deals can't officially be signed until Wednesday, but they can be agreed upon. That's what's happened here with Landon Collins, who is now the highest paid safety in the NFL, for now at least.
For now.
We'll see what happens with Earl Thomas, who we'll get to a little bit later on in the show. The other big one, Trey Flowers to the Detroit Lions. All this happening in the last half hour or so.
Yes, sir.
ESPN we don't have the exact details on the deal for Trey Flowers, but it's going to be a 5-year deal worth around $17 million, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. That's about what it's going to be there. So Flowers gets to reunite with his old defensive coordinator, Matt Patricia.
You predicted the Redskins were one of your top 5 teams. I didn't get the Redskins right. The Lions, though, they were our top team, and they've kind of been our top team, so we're not really surprised to see Trey Flowers go there. But $17 million a year. Tom, Landon Collins got $45. First thing you would buy if you had $45 million guaranteed coming out. What would you guys buy with $45 million guaranteed? You know it's coming to you. What's the first thing you'd buy?
Probably going to a nice steakhouse dinner. That's what I'm doing.
I'm going to buy a boat. Or the mystery box, because imagine, it could be a boat.
Even a boat. Could
even be a boat, Tom.
Probably a fancy-ass car.
Brett has no idea what we're talking about.
Motorcycle, that's what I'm doing.
A motorcycle now.
Yes.
Give me like a Lambo or a yacht. That's what I want with $45 million.
Why not both?
Mystery box. If you guys don't know that, somebody says a house, that's actually probably a better investment.
Whatever. I like flashy things. All right, let's talk more about some potential free agency moves here. Deone Bucannon to the Giants, and this makes sense, at least to me, given the ties to James Bettcher. Now, Bucannon didn't have his best year last year as part of a whole scheme change there for the Arizona Cardinals. When they tried to trade him at the deadline, didn't find a taker there. If you bring in Bucannon, though, and you're the Giants, that's another option at the inside linebacker spot, alongside Al Ogletree, who didn't play that well.
And also they moved on from, Vernon? He's another player that they moved on from. But I look at this Giants linebacking depth chart, and I mean, when was the last time the Lions actually, I think, had a solid, the Giants had a solid linebacker depth chart? I don't really know what's going on with this defense and Dave Gettleman. I think it's pretty frustrating considering in 2017, the Giants had one of the best defensive units in the entire NFL, and now they're totally shifting away from that. I think Deone Bucannon is a good player, but if that's their option for Landon Collins, that's a huge L.
Yeah, it's not exactly a Landon Collins type player, but we know that GM Dave Gettleman loves linebackers, doesn't like defensive backs. That's been his MO. Remember the whole Josh Norman thing?
Yep, well, I like blondes, not brunettes, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, Tom.
Let's talk about another lesser-known player, Za'Darius Smith, the outside linebacker for the Ravens. Don't worry, we'll get to C.J. Mosley later. The Packers tried to trade for Smith. Now they're going to pursue him in free agency. Tried to trade him back, several years ago.
Yeah, again, Za'Darius Smith, I think unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately, he just kind of gets swept under the rug a little bit due to the immense talent of the linebacker position in the Ravens. I mean, you still got Terrell Suggs, T-Sizzle, who, sure, he's not the player he used to be, but then also C.J. Mosley, a very good player. But if the Packers do need players, it's on defense, and they definitely need linebacker help. There's no doubt about that because, yeah.
Jake Ryan's a free agent. Blake Martinez is solid in terms of the inside, but on the edge where Za'Darius Smith will play, you have Nick Perry, who's probably a bit overpaid right now. Kyler Fackrell did emerge, but you've got who behind them?
Clay Matthews,
Nobody.
who's not Clay Matthews.
And as a free agent, might not be back.
Yeah, so again, Za'Darius Smith, solid player out of Kentucky, fourth year once he was drafted out of fourth round pick in 2015, but I think had a pretty good year, 8.5 sacks in terms of being able to get after the quarterback. And if you can get after the quarterback, sooner or later, you're going to get paid pretty handsomely, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's how it ends up going there. So again, Za'Darius Smith could be an option for Green Bay. With Trey Flowers off the market, you'll see some other guys find their asking prices. Now today's show is brought to you by BetDSI, the internet's #1 sportsbook. Head over to chatsports.com/bet. Use that promo code LIVE120 for a 120% deposit bonus. Mitch, you're not going to find a better deal out there to bet on sports.
In fact, Tom, I just realized now what I would do with my money once I got $45 million guaranteed. I'd go to BetDSI and I'd go to chatsports.com/bet. I'd use that promo code LIVE120. That's just me for 120% deposit bonus. I put down $100, I get $120 for free. You put down $45 million. I have no idea how much you'd get, but it'd be a lot for free. Shout out to BetDSI for hooking us up with the best promo code on the internet.
Absolutely. So again, that's chatsports.com/bet, promo code LIVE120. Now, in terms of non-free agents, at least for now, the drama around Kyle Rudolph and the Minnesota Vikings, there was a report that the Vikings said, hey, Kyle, can you take a pay cut for us? You're going to make like $7 million. That's kind of a lot for you. But then Kyle's agent comes out and says, no, the Vikings have not asked for one. And in fact, they've told us he's going to be on the team next year. So that report might have been wrong. Either way, sounds like Rudolph's going to stay with the Minnesota Vikings unless they decide to cut him all of a sudden.
Yeah, Kyle Rudolph, I think, has had 2 good years, but he's also a tight end that can actually block and is going to get his hand dirty, even though I think they play on turf, however. But Kyle Rudolph, I think, is going to help out a player like Kirk Cousins, who Kirk Cousins kind of leaned on Rudolph here and there, but it's been more predominantly wide receiver heavy throughout his entire career. When you have Stephon Diggs, you have Adam Thielen, you have running back like Dalvin Cook, who can also catch the football. Nothing against Kyle Rudolph. I personally wouldn't pay him $7 million.
It's a lot given the way the Vikings offense is constructed because he's obviously behind Stephon Diggs, behind Adam Thielen. Do you want to pay $7 million to your third or maybe even fourth option if you want to factor in Cook as well? So there you go. All right, some more signings that did happen earlier today that we'll get to here. Dante Fowler got a 1-year, $14 million deal from the LA Rams, Mitch.
Seems
How about that?
Very similar to the Ndamukong Suh deal last year, where he also got 1 year for $14 million, kind of like a prove-it deal.
Not bad for a player that has 16 career regular season sacks.
I mean, again, though, you're looking at what he was supposed to be, and I think he played much better for the Jags. There's no doubt about that compared to what he ever did for the Jags. But a 2015 first-round pick, I believe that was 3rd overall. Like, Dante Fowler, I just think was a bad fit with the Jags, but played a lot better with the Rams. However,
especially in the postseason.
Yeah.
There had been interest from teams like the Niners and the Jets in Dante Fowler, and the Rams said, why don't we just pay you a bunch of money this year so we can keep going all in? And I'll be honest, man, $14 million, that's too much for me. I mean, that's the nature of NFL free agency early on. A lot of players get paid big money.
But again, the Rams have so many players that they had the potential to at least re-sign. I mean, Ndamukong Suh, peace out.
I think he's out.
LaMarcus Joyner.
He's gone because they re-signed
exactly.
Eric Weddle.
But, like, there's so many of these other players, and you're like, all right,
I'm curious what happens to Roger Saffold now that they're paying $14 million to Fowler. They could have given that to Saffold, the guard, by the way.
Since you look like about a 40-year-old math teacher, I want you to grade this signing. A, B, C, D, or F.
It's a C for me. You're not tying yourself long-term with that type of impact, but you are paying $14 million.
Okay.
It's a lot of money. Speaking of a lot of money, how about Malik Jackson to the Philadelphia Eagles, a 3-year, $30 million deal? Now, there was the freak out on Twitter when Adam Schefter said 3-year, $10 million. It was a typo. It was 10 each year, not 10 total. 3 years, $30 million, a little bit more reasonable. Otherwise, that would have been a massive steal by the Eagles.
Steal would have been an understatement.
Yeah, robbery.
That literally highway robbery. Malik Jackson, solid player. I think the Eagles, though, I think they got I don't want to say a bargain here, but again, they had to be, I think, responsible with their money because, well, they just don't have a lot. But I think this defensive line depth chart,
we just had the worst signing ever. Give me 2 minutes.
Oh, boy. Okay. So the Eagles' defensive line, though, depth chart, I think, has been based on their depth. And when you have Fletcher Cox, when you have Barnett, you have Graham, some of these other players who
got to build out everything.
They're getting a little bit older. I don't have any idea what has Tom this flustered, but hopefully it's not Malik Jackson. He was cut by the Jags only a few days ago, and again, there was rumors around that teams were going to be interested, but I'm ultimately not too surprised that nobody went out and traded for Malik Jackson because, well, let's face it, the Jags were going to have to end up cutting him anyway, and this is, I think, one of those better deals by the Eagles, and yes, it's 3 years, $30 million, and not 3 years, $10 million, as originally reported in I think a typo. And come on, we've all been there. We've all made a typo here and there. If you guys like what you're listening to, make sure you guys subscribe to youtube.com/chatsportstv. And also, shout out your team. Who's your favorite NFL team? Right now, I'm the guy who covers the Raiders, so I guess I'll say the Raiders. Tom's a Cowboys fan. Hit us up on IG. I'm also there on Instagram at Mitchell Renz 365. He's at What Going Downey. You want to get on the show, there's 2 easy ways to do it. One, when you subscribe to youtube.com/chatsportstv. And second, when you interact with us. So, Seth Francis, 49ers, Big Tit, I think that was the name for the Cowboys. Mopar Maniac, the Bears. I just saw tits and that's where my eyes went.
Of course.
Simon Kaplan says Browns. Rob says HTTR. Roger Sneed. More people. And should have known that this had to do with something Bengals related. So here we go, Tom.
What the hell is this? Bobby Hart just got 3 years, $21 million. Here's the thing about Bobby Hart, Mitchell. He's trash. He is a terrible offensive player. This dude got cut by the Giants. The Giants last year. And we know how bad the Giants' offensive line is. Bobby Hart, let me go find my notes, because if you guys don't know, I have team needs notes for every single player. Let me see what I actually wrote down for Bobby Hart, because I had assumed he was gone. He was a disaster week in and week out for the Cincinnati Bengals. You're now paying him $7 million. What on earth are the Cincinnati Bengals doing? Here are my notes. Right tackle, mostly Bobby Hart, is a shit show. That's what I wrote for my Bobby Hart notes. Bobby Hart, sucks, is an unrestricted free agent. How have you paid him $21 million? His stats this year after he took over as a starter, he allowed 10 sacks and 39 total pressures in 17 games. He's awful. He is one of the worst offensive linemen in the NFL. Oh, I'm sorry. Tim's hot takes is I'm hyped for some deal. That's because that's how bad it is. I hyped it up as a terrible deal. Didn't I say this is the worst deal ever?
Tim, I'm with you. I saw Tom's reaction, and then no name What Going Downing comes on the screen, and I'm like, who's Hart? The dude doesn't even have a heart as far as I'm concerned.
I can't understand. Last year, among players, Bobby Hart was tied for third in most sacks allowed. He's awful. And you just paid him $21 million. That doesn't make any sense.
If you guys know anything about Tom is the king of saying a guy, we're all here in the office, and we're like, is that a real person? I'm convinced that's not even a real player card. This isn't even a real show. I don't know what we're doing.
Let me double check where he ranks. You just made Bobby Hart a top 9 highest paid right tackle in the NFL.
Well, according to Andy, he loves it. Congrats to Bengals.
Andy's being funny.
No, I understand that. Actually, according to Adam Schefter, though, this is or not Schefter.
I don't make any. Nice, that's a good one. This just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
It's the Bengals.
This is such a terrible deal.
With the Bengals.
This is such a terrible deal.
I'm sorry that you're this upset.
All right, let's go back to some more reasonable deals here then. Danny Amendola signed a 1-year, $4.5 million deal. It's his base salary. It's fully guaranteed. Came in with up to $5.7 million. as Detroit continues to be Patriots West.
Yeah. Again, I'm not totally surprised. Matt Patricia saw a player that he liked. Danny Amendola is just never, I think, a good fit with the Dolphins. Go figure, when you go from Tom Brady to Ryan Tannehill, Jay Cutler, who else? I don't even know the quarterbacks that they even had last year. Jay, was he even a quarterback last year? Osweiler.
Cutler was in 2016 there.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely there. Just terrible. But I think Amendola ultimately, I think what they're trying to do with this is find a cheaper Golden Tate. And Golden Tate was a great receiver for Matthew Stafford. Heck, Golden Tate had 2 straight years of over 1,000 receiving yards, was Matthew Stafford's go-to guy. And when Amendola is healthy, he's a very solid slot wide receiver.
I agree. Now, I do worry about him actually staying healthy. That's the big red flag there for me.
If you guys want to see what Tom's tweeting out, go to what's going down here right now. He's flustered.
Bengals are just over here burning money up for literally no reason. 3-year, $21 million deal for Bobby Hart, who's absolutely terrible.
You guys think I look like Danny Amendola? I've been told that before.
I can see it.
Yeah?
I can see it. All right, now we do have a super chat here from God of Blackness. What's up with the Panthers? As of right now, not a whole lot. They've been pretty quiet. I think there's been some buzz about maybe getting some center help potentially. I don't think they're that interested in Matt Paradis. But remember, they don't have a ton of money to spend either necessarily.
Yeah.
So they're a little bit tighter. I think Panthers in particular, one of those teams you're going to see kind of have some secondary moves. Not necessarily today or even tomorrow or Wednesday, but once some deals get done, then it makes some more sense for them. Another big move was Trent Brown to the Oakland Raiders that you went live with earlier today on our Oakland Raiders report here. So, Mitch, what do you make of this deal?
Personally, for me, I like the deal for the Raiders. Now, it's 4 years, $66 million. $36 million of that was guaranteed. And Colt Miller, their first-round pick last year, selected 15th overall. He's going to slide over to the right tackle position. And yesterday, when they traded Kelechi Osemele to the New York Jets, at first I was kind of scratching my head, Tom, and I didn't quite understand it. But then I was like, okay, now looking at it, Trent Brown, I think, makes a lot of sense. And when I look at the Raiders' offensive line, they gave up 52 sacks last year, the 5th most in the NFL. Now, Colt Miller's going to slide over to that right tackle position, and then left tackle, Trent Brown. Denzel Good's going to slide in for Kelechi Osemele. I think the real issue is, though, they still have Tom Cable, and Tom Cable's a horrible offensive line coach. I mean, heck, Tom Cable with the Seattle Seahawks in 2017, the worst offensive line in the NFL. He comes over to the Raiders in 2018. What happens? The Seahawks lead the NFL in rushing yards. The freaking Raiders give up 52 sacks, 42 sacks in 2016, 2017. Insert Tom Cable, fire Tom Cable.
Here's my fear. Tom Cable's going to break Trent Brown.
Oh.
And there'd been a little bit of buzz about Trent Brown being one of those free agents that gets paid and kind of,
gets lazy.
That's a good way of putting it. So I am very curious to see what ends up happening there. But from a need perspective, I do want to make note, you spent 2 top 65 picks on tackles last year.
Yep.
And Raiders fans got mad at me when I said, what are you doing drafting Brandon Parker?
Yep.
Now he's been benched.
But again, I think this is also one of those moves.
It's
one of those moves, if you want to see what Derek Carr's got, if he's your franchise quarterback, protect his blind side, go out and sign a player named Mr. Big Chest, and then hopefully sparks will be flying for the Raiders.
Another super chat coming in here from Patriot God says, what is going on with the Patriots for now? A little bit quiet. Remember, the Patriots' MO is not to throw big money. Of course, they did just get, in theory, 2 third-round comp picks for Trent Brown and for Trey Flowers.
Yeah. What are the Patriots going to do? I can tell you one thing.
Lesser signings.
Sure.
But likely guys that were cut.
But I'm saying, why do the Patriots need to do anything? I mean, they're going to go to the AFC Championship game, and I've already put money down that they're going to go to the Super Bowl. It's
true.
You guys should do it too. Chatsports.com/bet. You want an easy bet? You want an easy way to pay off some student loans? Yeah, just do it. Chatsports.com/bet. 9 out of the last 11 years I've been to this AFC Championship game. Yeah. If I'm the Patriots, do your thing.
Right. Another big-time signing was Kwon Alexander, 4 years, $54 million with $27 guaranteed. In terms of non-pass rushing linebackers, this makes him the highest paid in the NFL. More than Luke Kuechly, or as Charlie Cashley called him, Ryan Kuechly earlier today, because that was weird. More than Bobby Wagner, more than anybody. 4 years, $54 million for a guy coming off a torn ACL. That's a lot.
I like Kwon Alexander, talented player. But this is way overpaying. Way overpaying for a player, as you said, is coming off a torn ACL. And these players are unbelievable athletes, and I think we're starting to be able to see them come off of these injuries much easier than expected. But an ACL injury is no injury just to say whatever to, especially if you're going to give him $27.5 million. I don't know. I'm surprised.
At least the Niners went out and spent some big money. I know there were some Niners fans that were worried that they weren't going to do that. That's not the case. They threw big money there. They are tied to Earl Thomas, who we'll get to here in a little bit. But the Niners spent big on Kwon Alexander. Yep. What do you make of this signing? Give me a grade here. I do want to see what the actual structure looks like. In recent years, the Niners have done a good job about kind of front-loading the deal almost with guaranteed money and then saving money in the end.
See, I feel like if I'd be any kind of teacher, Tom, I'd be a gym teacher. It's just personally my belief. I think Tom looks more like a math teacher. I'm more like
terrible
the gym.
at math.
What?
I'm not good at math.
I'm saying you look like a gym teacher.
That's offensive.
Well, I'm sorry. But, so if I'm going to give my grade here for this one, I'm probably going to go D. I think it's a bad move. I think if they really overpaid for Kwon Alexander. Now, Kwon Alexander, I think, is talented enough to maybe make that worth it in the long haul, but in terms of right now, I think they grossly overpaid for Kwon Alexander.
That's kind of the nature of free agency.
Sure.
Guys get paid a lot more than maybe they'd be worth on a re-signing. I will lean towards a C. I'll give them some benefit of the doubt there to see what the deal is actually structured like. Like if it's a 2-year front-loaded deal and you can get out of it after year 3, I'm okay with that in the end. At least I am.
The guaranteed money scares me a little bit
That's fair.
for a player coming off a torn ACL.
That's fair. All right, one more other signing, and we'll spend less time on this one because it's Justin Coleman, the now highest paid nickel cornerback in the NFL. We'll see what Bryce Callahan ends up getting, by the way, as well. We'll see what happens there. 4 years, $36 million. Detroit is just throwing money around right now.
Especially on the defensive side of the ball, and I love it. I mean, we even saw it last year. Heck, I feel like it all started with the Jonathan Hankins trade. Or not Jonathan Hankins.
Golden Tate trade.
Golden Tate. Yep, Damian Harris. Words in my mouth, players. Here we go. Damian Harris came over to the Lions, really started to build up that defense. Matt Patricia, we know he's the defensive-minded player coach. At the end of the day, when you have Matthew Stafford as your quarterback, you got to build that defense as far as I'm concerned because Matthew Stafford sucks.
All right, I'll ignore that one. Some more super chats, though, coming in. Keep them flowing, folks. From Chad, what's your guess at the Browns' record next year? Mitch, I'll let you go first because you already know my thoughts on this.
Well, Tom, according to Tom, they're going 17-0.
That's not what I said, first off. You continue to spread fake news.
I know it's 16. I'm just saying, like, that's how much of a lover Tom is of the Browns at this point. I would have said, I think if you would have asked me a month ago, I would have said 8-8. I'm now going to lean 10-6.
Okay, good. It's 10-6 or 11-5 when they're winning the AFC North. Not going to be the Bengals throwing money at Bobby Hart.
Okay.
The Ravens are a strong threat, and I think the Steelers are about to fall apart. There you go. Now, again, if you missed it earlier, we went through some of the lesser signings. Here was the big one, Landon Collins, a 6-year, $84 million deal with $45 million guaranteed. For now, he is the highest paid safety in the NFL.
For now, and I think it still will remain now. I think the Honey Badger, he's going to try to get close to it. I don't think they'll give it to him with his past injury histories. Again, Earl Thomas is going to try, but a little bit older. Landon Collins, go stick it to the Giants, my man.
And then Trey Flowers has joined the Detroit Lions on a 5-year deal worth about $17 million a year. We've yet to get the exact amount in there, but that's what it's about going to come in there for Trey Flowers. So a big signing there for Detroit, who's added Justin Coleman and Danny Amendola in the last 24 hours. They've been aggressive.